called heaven. Ephesians 1:20 says, quote, which he, God, wrought in Christ when he raised him from the dead and set him at his own right hand in the heavenly places. End quote. The Greek for heavenly places here is epouranios, E-P-O-U-R-A-N-I-O-S. This word, epouranios, is used 5 times in the epistle to the Ephesians, and each time it was translated as heaven or heavenly places, or the heavenly abode. And we know that when God raised Jesus Christ up from the dead, 40 days later he ascended into heaven and he sat down at the right hand of God in heaven. But listen to the Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12, which is also a very well-known verse with Christians. Quote, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against the spiritual wickedness in high places, epouranios. End quote. The same holds true, speaking of these same rulers of darkness, in Ephesians chapter 3 verse 10. Quote, to the intent that now, unto the principalities and powers in heavenly places, epouranios, might be known by the church the manifest wisdom of God. End quote. We know that Jesus ascended into heaven and now sits on the right hand of his Father. But Ephesians informs us twice that Satan and the rest of the rulers of darkness also reside in this place, called heaven. This confirms Revelation 12, which informs us of a coming war between the devil and Michael, which result in the devil himself, plus the remainder of the 1/3 angels which rebelled with him, being cast down to earth. When these beings are cast out of heaven, I believe they lose some of their spiritual abilities, and therefore will be manifest in plain sight before the eyes of an amazed world. This truth is alluded to in Jude, which also provides us with another tidbit of information on the fallen angels. Quote, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of that great day. End quote. Jude verse 6. The Greek word for habitation here is oikaterion. The only other place this word appears in the New Testament is in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 2, where it is speaking about our spiritual bodies, which we will receive when the Lord comes back to gather together his saints. So when it says of the original fallen angels that they, quote, left their own habitation, end quote, it is referring to their spiritual bodies, and, I believe, it is inferring that they are no longer invisible and become manifest in full view to the naked eye. This is a terrible thing when you think about it, for that means that all the devils of hell, both from below and above, will soon invade the earth and everyone will see them. Jesus himself told us of this. Luke 21 verse 25 and 26, quote, and there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. End quote. Again we look afresh at Revelation 6:13, which speak of the stars falling from heaven to earth. Quote, the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. End quote. The stars of heaven are the angels, which are devils, and they are going to fall to the earth. And when they fall to the earth, we're told in Luke by the Messiah himself that men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. And the reason people are going to drop dead on the spot is because they're going to see all these beings, evil fallen angels, descending to earth and manifesting on the earth in plain sight, just as they did in the days of Noah, when 200 descended on Mount Hermon in the days of Jared, 1,000 years prior to the flood of Noah. Also look at Luke 21:26. It says, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And in Revelation 6:13 it says, even as a fig tree casts her untimely twigs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Well, again, we referred back to Ephesians 6:12 and Ephesians 3:10, and we are told that the evil rulers, which this is referring to, are the powers that reside in heaven, and they are shaken. The powers of heaven are shaken. They're going to be shaken like a mighty tree, and they're going to fall to earth like figs falling from a fig tree, shaken by a mighty wind. It gets worse. Revelation 17 and 18 talks of a coming great city, which is called Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. 5 times we are told that this harlot is a, quote, great city that reigns over the kings of the earth, end quote. In other words, the Antichrist and his accomplices will reign from this great city. But that's another day's work. And I do show exactly which city this is in my book, Return of the Antichrist and the New World Order. In Revelation 18, we are told about the destruction of this great city, which will occur at the end of the apocalypse when Armageddon happens. But listen to this. Revelation chapter 18 verse 2. Quote, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Read that again. This powerful city, which is now present, will become home for the devils and a hold for every foul spirit. This is speaking of those evil fallen angels, which are spirits, and the rest of the devils who will descend when they are ejected from heaven and cast to earth. They are going to infest this city, and everyone will see them. This is reiterated in Isaiah 13:21, which is speaking of the day of the Lord, which is the day of wrath or the great tribulation. Referring to the same city, Babylon, Isaiah says, quote, But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and the owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there, end quote. These names are metaphors for foul spirits and evil angels. The owls here tie in with the unclean and hateful bird of John's vision. Satyrs were half man, half goat in ancient mythologies, such as Pan. Wild beasts are literally jackals, and again we see reliefs and pictures in the temples of Egypt, depictions of gods which are men with birds' heads, such as Horus, which is the head of a falcon, or Anubis, which had the head of a jackal with a man's body. We read of centaurs and minotaurs in Greek mythology. Is it possible that apart from devils and other foul spirits, that there are also other vile creatures about to manifest once the gathering together of the church is completed? For we are told in the book of Enoch that the fallen angels can change their form and image. Here's another enigmatic prophecy from Isaiah 46 verse 11. Quote, Calling a ravenous bird from the east, the man that executes my counsel from a far country, end quote. I do have a story in my book relating to an apparition which appeared to an evangelical pastor in the islands out in Indonesia, this man appeared to him in his office one night, who was half man and who had bird-like features, but I am not going to go into that now, but I do cover it in my book. As I say, I go much deeper into this particular topic in my book, Return of the Antichrist and the New World Order. Here we may but speculate on the makeup of the creatures that are going to become visible in the near future. But we are not speculating when we declare that it is not a bunch of hybrid giants which will invade the earth, nor a motley crew of mutant super soldiers. No. What is about to befall this sad and sorry world is much, much more fearsome and terrible. For the devil himself is coming down, and all the devils of hell with him. And these beings are so vile and so evil that many, many people will drop dead on the spot when they see these beings fall to earth, quote, like figs falling from a fig tree, shaken by a mighty wind, end quote. Compared to these powerful supernatural spirit beings, the giants look like an afternoon tea party. For just as David was able to take down Goliath with a stone, a bullet will stop a giant. But bullets will be of no use when people come face to face with a devil from hell. So now you know why many of the movies coming out of Hollywood we see now are mystical, magical, paranormal spectacles with aliens and ETs and witches and vampires and zombies. Many of the TV programs are the same, featuring UFOs and abductions and beautiful spirit men and women coming to Earth to help mankind survive all the trouble that now faces humanity. Books such as Harry Potter and Twilight advertise the same message. But why is Hollywood promoting this? Because the whole population of the world is being subliminally conditioned and brainwashed and prepped in readiness for the soon appearing and manifestation of these devils and unclean spirits and doleful creatures in plain sight and full view on planet Earth. Now you know why the UN has an ambassador, Miss Mazlan Othman, who is the, quote, UN diplomat for aliens, end quote, in the Office for Outer Space Affairs. This is why Dr. Guy Consolmagno, the Pope's astronomer, says, of course there are aliens out there, but they are benign and their creator is the same God that created us. And when they arrive, Dr. Guy is willing to baptize them, should they want to be baptized. This is why some school children in the UK are receiving instructions on what to do should a UFO happen to crash land in the schoolyard. This is why many of the music videos are spiritually motivated, like Katy Perry's latest called E.T., which depicts falling angels and shows her kissing the alien, while images of animals mating flash in and out. At the end of this video, she is depicted as a woman from the waist up, but with the hips and legs of a deer. Many of the adverts on TV show beautiful-looking female angels with wings falling to earth out of the sky, like figs falling from a fig tree. It goes on, and now you have heard this, it will become more obvious to you. Lastly, I was returning home from visiting my 2 daughters in New Zealand recently, and as my wife and I and my 3rd daughter walked from the plane into Heathrow Airport, London, I was dumbstruck by what I saw. There were large posters all along the wall on the corridor on the way in. The poster was of the iconic oval-shaped alien head with oval eyes, and written across the top of the picture of this alien was just one word: knowledge. That's it. That was all. I could not believe what I was looking at. Think about it. 40 million people pass through Heathrow Airport each year. But instead of seeing a picture of Buckingham Palace or the Tower of London or Piccadilly Square, instead it is this face of an alien with the word knowledge written across the top. Someone had to sanction this. Someone had to decide in a top-level meeting that this is what was going to adorn the passageway. This had to come from the senior executives who run the airport, and it is government-owned. So what messages are they sending out? What ulterior motive lies behind the seemingly innocuous poster? I think the answer is clear. They are coming back. In conclusion, my colleagues are wrong when they teach that the world will be invaded by hybrid giants or mutant super soldiers. This is not what Scripture teaches us. It says that, very plainly, after the rapture of the church, this world will be invaded both from below, the bottomless pit or the abyss, and from heaven, by Satan himself and all the devils of hell. And this spectacle will be so shocking that many will drop dead on the spot when they see what is descending to earth. But the good news is that Jesus told us when we see all these things begin to take place, quote, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near.